welcome back. Buckle up, it's gonna be a long one. Today I'm going to go over the most unpopular opinion of all time. Women should not be president, and especially not of the United States. I'm going to go over my reasons why and challenge you to think for yourself before casting that vote in the next presidential election. For as long as I can remember, people have been fantasizing about who we will have as our first female president. It's kind of just become something that little girls fantasize about, even little boys fantasize about, something that we've come to accept is probably going to happen sometime within our lifetime. Women everywhere are trying to push female candidates into that spot. But why is that a terrible idea? Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is basic, but logic. I actually got this off of a legit article, so I'm going to read it word for word for you. According to the Bloomberg Top 500 Billionaire Index, there are only 66 women on it, and only 6 are self-made. The others getting their wealth from death or divorce. 6 self-made women, as opposed to 313 self-made men. Why is this? Because women are born to do different things than men. Biologically speaking, women are different than men. They want different things. Their minds are wired in different ways. They go about things in different ways. Their problem solving goes through different avenues and like neurons and whatnot in the brain when they're trying to do things. They want different things and they go about it in different ways. Now on to the real problem. The different ways that women go about doing these things. Women are more emotional than men. This is because the production of estrogen causes different hormones to cycle through their bodies, causing them to react certain ways to certain things. These hormones can cause them to be a bit unstable, a bit ragey at times, and not think things clearly through. More emotions means more instability, and more likely to make hard choices based on empathy and feelings rather than cold hard facts. But mercy, we want an empathetic president. They'll care about our feelings. They'll care about our social issues. Excuse me, but since when is it worth putting our nation at risk for wars, recession, and misconduct for a few social issues? You want World War III? Because this is how you get World War III. I'm sure you all heard this before, so let's look at it factually. Based on track records and voting records, Hillary Clinton was/is sort of a warmonger. She voted in 2002 to authorize the Iraq War. She voted for a Patriot Act to spy on citizens. She joined the Armed Services Committee, which oversees the military operations and research and development. As Secretary of State, she was worse. I don't know what I wrote. Oh, there we go. She pushed to bomb Libya. She called to stay in Iraq during a time when Obama wanted out. Called to have more bombs, a no-fly zone, more troops on the ground overseas. In her run for president, she was aggressive with her stance to create wars, even saying she would bomb Russian airspace overseas, or bomb Russian territory, like invade Russian airspace and then bomb their territory. But surely one woman being for war doesn't mean they're all unstable, you might say. Well, you would be wrong. For instance, it doesn't mean that they have to be a warmonger to be seen as unstable. We also have prominent figureheads that are females that have a lot of dark stories being passed around about them. If I may go off into a little bit of a conspiracy theory moment here, the Queen of England, possibly the most evil woman in history according to all of the Brits that I have spoken with. Over her time as leader, she garnered numerous rumors, including one saying that she's a cannibal. But that's all speculation. There's also speculation that she is the reason that Princess Diana was killed. But we're not talking about that. Though England had a history of notable bloody kings, and even though Queen Elizabeth hasn't publicly murdered anyone, she's got a track record of being shady. She's on record as stating that she found World War II enjoyable, and that she attended many parties and had a lot of fun during it. She's more of a figurehead than a leader, but she tends to just go along with whatever anybody tells her to do. And, it proves that she's basically a weak-minded individual. And that's another point that I want to make, is that you either have the warmongers and, like, really hard-headed, bitches out there, or then you have the ones that just want to please everyone and just sort of go along with everything and don't really have a mind of their own, and they're pretty brainwashed into whatever anybody can convince them to do. You don't really see women thinking for themselves a lot. You see them paying attention to propaganda and paying attention to what the male higher-ups say that they should do. Onto the American political spectrum again, we've got women who have wanted to run for office, or who want to run for office in the next election, and the ones who are actually in office right now. I can bring up several examples of very unstable women who are in office right now. So one of the candidates that's going to be running for president in the next election is Elizabeth Warren. Now, we all know the deal with Elizabeth Warren. She basically said that she was Native American so that she could get a bunch of special treatments, and then it came out and she had the blood test and it turns out that she's like 0.000000051 or whatever it is % Native American. So she really has absolutely no right to be talking like she's a Native American or representative of Native Americans at all. But she lied to get into school, to get loans, like scholarships, stuff like that. She even lied her way into the spot that she's in the government right now. And that, I think, is an excellent example of why women shouldn't be in positions of power, because to get to that position of power, they feel like they need to lie and cheat and do all this stuff. And in a way, they do need to lie and cheat and do all this stuff, because nobody in their right mind would put a woman in power if she was just straight up about who she was. I mean, come on. Nobody wants some ugly broad who just does this boring crap and isn't a minority and isn't anything special. And when you could put a man in the office who's probably like 10 times more mentally stable and 10 times smarter than her. And the biggest threat from her is that she could fuck up the economy, because she's banking on, she's concerned with money a lot. Her voting records show that she's concerned a lot with money and taxes, and, raising minimum wage and stuff like that. Well, when you raise stuff like that, then the price of living goes up, and then people still aren't able to make what they need to survive, even though you've basically given them like $20 an hour. They still can't make what they need to survive because rent is now more expensive. And if you lower taxes for the poor and raise it on the rich own the businesses. So if the rich own the businesses and you raise their taxes, they're not going to want to pay their employees, so they're going to hire more people on entry-level positions so that they don't need to give them the benefits that they deserve, and they're going to cut hours. They're going to start replacing employees more and more with machines. Have you noticed at McDonald's now, you go into McDonald's and it's run by machines? Like, you go up and you need to order from a little box and type in your order. Yeah, that's because people that work at McDonald's argued for a living wage, so they said, fuck you, we're just going to replace you with these machines. Women do not make good business partners, mostly because women's brains aren't wired for math and facts and figures. We're wired biologically. This is scientific facts. Biologically, women are not wired to do math or hard factual problem solving. Why? Because the portion of our brain that's bigger is the creative side, because women are supposed to be creative, nurturing, loving, taking care of the home, taking care of the kids, stuff like that. It is scientifically proven that women think more with the right brain and men think more with the left. That is, the right is the creative side and all that stuff, and the left is the factual math problem-solving side. This is why a woman in business might be innovative as fuck, but they certainly don't have the skills to process math. You need to have a guy do the math part, and then the girl come up with the ideas. The economy would be in serious problem with a woman in power, because if a woman can't think factually, then how is she going to pick the men that are going to handle the math and factual side of the presidency? She's not going to be able to, because she's not going to understand the ins and outs and the inner workings of that. And then we have people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Besides her bad eyebrows and weirdly shaped face, she is a horrible politician and should have never been put into power. Her politics range from ridiculously idealistic to downright harmful. One thing that she did to mess up the economy, for instance, was she messed up Amazon's plan to open a headquarters in New York, which left millions without jobs. She also specifically made a statement saying, "It's better to be morally right than factually correct." Basically saying that feels are more important than facts. Now, as a woman, I can see where she's coming from, I can understand, because to me feels are very important, but I understand because I'm smart enough to see the difference. I understand that it's okay for me to think that feels are more important than facts at times, because I'm not in a position of power. I'm not in that kind of office. I'm not trying to do the kind of things that she's trying to do. So I can basically worry about my feels and worry about my emotions and take care of myself and nurture myself and my friends and my family. I have that luxury because I am not in the position that she is in, but she is just ridiculous. First of all, whose bright idea was it to put a former waitress who has a picture of her floating around the internet that somebody took of her, and they had photoshopped it, and I think that they did this before she even got elected, and it looks like she's like farting fire or something. Like, whose idea was it to put somebody in office that does shit like that? Not to mention, she is like the dopiest person that I've ever seen. Some of the things that she suggests and talks about, and the ideas she has, and just, I don't even know, like the cow farts, that cow farts are bad for the environment, and God, what else? So much stupid that it burns my brain out trying to think of it. I don't want to injure myself, so I'm not even going to go through anything else. Maybe I'll add some clips in here or something, but definitely not going to list it all.
In her brief time in the political limelight, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has said a lot of interesting stuff.
I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
But being factually correct is important.
It's absolutely important.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? This is our World War II.
And I think that that all great American programs, everything from the Great Society to the New Deal, started with a vision for our future.
Reparations are for the damage done by the New Deal and redlining.
All great American programs, everything from the Great Society to the New Deal.
Reparations are for the damage done by the New Deal and redlining.
There aren't many other female leaders to bring up because countries tend to be smart and not elect female leaders. A good example of the climate of women in power is if you ever watched the show Game of Thrones. While fictional, it basically depicts women very accurately, how they need to lie, cheat, and use their bodies to gain or keep power. An accurate representation of women leaders throughout history, including the present. Because women aren't as mentally capable to get into power, they need to use dirty tactics to get into power. I touched before on how women are more emotional. Well, women are meant to be more emotional because then they can be better caregivers for their children, their husbands, their families, stuff like that. Like, they're meant to be emotional, they're meant to be more in tune with emotion, because throughout history, women are meant to be the ones that take care of everybody. This is important because if they weren't able to form an emotional attachment easily, then their children would be growing up with something vital that they need to survive. Not saying that men can't be loving, it's just saying that it takes longer for them to bond, and it's a little bit harder for them to bond. And again, we cycle back. The reason for these differences is it's mostly hormonal. It's the hormones that we have going through our body. The estrogen in women, the testosterone for men. These striking differences cause women to grow breasts and men to grow muscles and stuff like that. I mean, maybe it helps with like penis size and testicles and stuff like that too, but the testosterone just helps men build up and look manly, and the estrogen helps women to look more feminine. Also, according to an article in the Harvard Business Review, women are less likely to take risks. It summarized a number of different studies and even said that men are more outgoing when stressed. This could potentially be deadly in serious situations of like threats of nuclear war if a woman is not as outgoing. Basically, a woman would hesitate, like somebody drops a bomb on us and the woman's hand is trembling over the button and she needs to push it. A man would just fucking push it. A woman would be like, but what about all the innocent babies and civilians out there that could be hurt? No, bitch. We just got hit by a nuke or a huge-ass bomb. You push that motherfucking button. Male brains are actually a little bit larger than females, by the way. They're studying this right now, and there's a potential that this size of the brain could end up leading to the brain in a man being more powerful to that of a woman. Fortunately, with the rise of political correctness and all this gender identity crap, if they do find this out, the results will probably be buried. Due in part to women's ability to cope with things, because I'm sure that women will be the ones to call for the silence of the studies. Studies show that heightened estrogen in males tend to make them weaker and more emotional. That's why soy is bad for them. It contains something that raises their estrogen. Of course, then you go into how once a month women become more unstable than usual. That's right. Aunt Flo is coming to visit. How would you like it if you put someone in power that once a month wants to kill everyone and now has the ability to do it? Because that's basically what you're doing. How can you trust something that bleeds for 7 days and doesn't die? And then we get into women get paid less than men for a reason. They need to work like 10 times harder at these man's jobs. I shouldn't put it in air quotes. They are man's jobs. At these man's jobs, they need to work 10 times harder just to scratch by. And of course they get paid less because they're not working as hard, because they think that they can just go in, get hired, and then get paid equal and not need to do all that extra work. They don't understand that that's like a necessary part of being in that position, is to work super hard and do the same job a man does and do it as good as a man does. But they think that they can just put in their best effort and they'll just get paid the same. No, it doesn't work like that. Basically, what it boils down to is that biologically women are meant to be the mothers and the caregivers and the homemakers and stuff like that. They're meant to be social, they're meant to be creative, they're meant to be all these things. They're not meant to be in power. You get a lot of corruption when you put a woman in power, and a lot of dirty, underhanded things going on when you put a woman in power. So why should we vote a woman into the most important office in the United States? Especially the women that are running today, especially out of the women that are in political offices right now. Why on earth would you ever put a woman into that office? It's just a terrible idea. So yeah, I'm sure that I could think about a million other things that I could go over in this, and I'll probably make an add-on to this later on as the political primaries or whatever happen and we go on with this, and especially if Elizabeth Warren ends up being the nominee for president, I will definitely do another video then. But until then, that is all. So remember, like and subscribe for more content, and don't vote for a woman.